You need to understand something that most people miss. Real desire is rarely loud, it's rarely dramatic, and it's almost never the kind of interest that announces itself with fireworks. It's consistent, it's quiet, and it keeps showing up in small, almost innocent ways. When a woman is truly thinking about you, when you are living in her mind more than she's willing to admit out loud, she doesn't always say, "I can't stop thinking about you." Instead, she does something more revealing. She finds reasons to stay connected without looking needy. She'll send something random, a meme, a song, a photo of a place, a tiny moment from her day, and it will look casual, but it isn't casual. It's a doorway. It's her way of saying, "I want a thread between us," without risking the vulnerability of saying, "I want you." And that's why consistency matters more than intensity. Anyone can be intense for one night. Anyone can flirt when they're bored. Anyone can drop a compliment when they want attention. But when she keeps returning, when she keeps creating those small touch points, even when she doesn't have to, even when there's no obvious benefit, that's when you need to understand it's something deeper. Because a person who is not interested will disappear the moment they're distracted. A person who is interested will keep you in their orbit, even in the middle of a busy day, even in the middle of a chaotic week, even when life is noisy, you still appear. Not as an obligation, but as a choice. Sometimes you'll notice it in the way she texts, not just the words, but the rhythm. She may not write paragraphs. She may not throw hearts everywhere. She may even pretend she's not that kind of person, but she checks in. She responds. She continues the conversation. She asks a question back. She reacts to what you said. She doesn't leave you hanging for days unless there's a real reason. And when she's delayed, she often returns with something that reopens the door. "Sorry, it was a long day," or "I just saw this and thought of you." That might sound small, but you need to understand it's not the apology that matters. It's the return. People return to what their heart quietly values. There's also a certain kind of safe flirting that happens when she's drawn to you, but still protecting her pride. She will test the waters without jumping in. She'll drop a line that feels playful. She'll tease you gently. She'll hint instead of confess. It's not because she wants to manipulate you, it's because she wants to feel you before she risks you. She wants to know, will he make me feel foolish? Will he punish me for being interested? Will he become arrogant if I show him I care? And this is where many men ruin it. They either become too excited and start pushing, or they become too cold and start playing games. You need to understand. The woman who is consistently reaching out in small ways is not asking to be chased. She's asking to be met with calm confidence. And if you've ever been the man who tried harder and harder, sending more messages, demanding clarity, asking for reassurance, trying to pull a confession out of her, then listen carefully, because this is where your dignity is either protected or lost. When her interest is real but quiet, pressure can kill it. Pressure makes her feel trapped. And when someone feels trapped, they look for exits. But when you stay steady, when you respond warmly without becoming desperate, when you show interest without begging for it, you create the one thing her mind is craving: emotional safety. You need to understand. Emotional safety is the soil where desire grows, and your calmness is what makes that soil feel safe. You will also see this consistency in the way she keeps you present in her life. She'll reference things you said earlier. She'll remember a detail about you. She'll circle back to a topic. She'll ask how something went. That's not politeness. That's attention. And attention is rarely wasted on someone who means nothing. When a woman is secretly fantasizing about you, she starts collecting pieces of you, not because she's obsessed, but because she's imagining. She's imagining how it would feel to be understood by you. She's imagining how it would feel to laugh with you in real life, not just on a screen. She's imagining what kind of man you are when nobody is watching. That's why she pays attention, because she's building a picture in her mind, and you need to understand, fantasy is not just physical. Fantasy is emotional. It's the mind practicing closeness. So what do you do with this? How do you respond in a way that honors both her feelings and your self-respect? You don't interrogate her. You don't corner her with, "Do you like me or not?" Because that's not confidence. That's anxiety dressed up as honesty. You also don't ignore her to teach her a lesson, because that's not strength. That's fear pretending to be power. You meet her where she is, and you lead gently forward. If she sends something small, you respond with warmth, then you create something real. That's hilarious. It reminded me of you too. Let's grab coffee on Friday. Simple, direct, calm, no pressure, no drama. And if she's truly thinking about you, you'll see her effort rise to meet your clarity. Because the truth is, you need to understand that the best relationships don't begin with confusion that lasts forever. Healthy attraction can be subtle at the start, but it becomes clearer over time through choices. Her consistent, quiet connection is the early language of desire. Your job is not to overreact, not to underreact, but to respond like a man who knows his worth, a man who can hold the moment without squeezing it, a man who can recognize genuine interest without turning it into a performance. And when you do that, you don't just become someone she thinks about. You become someone she feels safe moving toward, one honest step at a time. You need to understand this. A woman who can't stop thinking about you doesn't just like you in a quiet corner of her heart. She starts looking for ways to stay connected to your world because her mind keeps returning to you even when she's trying to focus on something else. It won't always look like a confession. It won't always sound like, "I miss you," or "I'm obsessed with you." Most of the time, it looks like something smaller, something safer, something she can pretend is casual if she ever feels embarrassed. She'll check your stories, not once, but often. She'll react to a post that doesn't even need a reaction. She'll reply to something that could have been ignored. She'll ask a question that gives you a reason to keep talking. And if you're paying attention, you'll feel it, not as loud romance, but as a steady thread she keeps tying between you and her day. You'll notice she starts pulling your world closer to hers, little by little. She asks about your work, not because she's doing research, but because she wants to imagine you in your element. She asks how your day went, but the real question under it is, do you let me in? She remembers your stress and checks on it later. She remembers the thing you said you were nervous about, and when the day comes, she wants to know what happened. These things might sound normal, but you need to understand there's a difference between being polite and being emotionally invested. Politeness is quick, predictable, and shallow. Investment has weight, investment returns, investment circles back. When she can't stop thinking about you, your life becomes interesting to her in a way that isn't forced. She doesn't ask because she has to. She asks because your world has started to matter. And sometimes it goes even deeper than conversation. She looks for reasons to overlap lives. She'll mention a place you like and say she's been wanting to go there. She'll bring up a topic you love. She'll suddenly discover a song, a show, a habit, a food that feels strangely aligned with you. She might even send you something and say, "This is so you," and you'll laugh. But there's something tender inside that moment because she's not just describing you. She's holding you in her mind while she's away from you. You need to understand. When someone is fantasizing about you, it's not always about physical attraction. It's also about emotional closeness. It's about the brain building a picture of how life feels with you in it, how your presence changes her mood, how your voice would sound in the middle of her ordinary day. You can see it too in how she places herself near your world without making it obvious. She might ask about your friends, your hobbies, your routine. She might show curiosity about the things you do, the things that formed you, the things that excite you. And she'll do it in a way that feels like she's trying to understand your rhythm, not just your facts. Because a woman who's only mildly interested will keep you separate. You're a nice chat that exists in a box. But a woman who can't stop thinking about you starts blending gently, quietly. She wants to know where you fit. She wants to know if she could belong there. She wants to know if you would welcome her into that space. You need to understand. This is why she asks. This is why she stays. This is why she returns. It's not random. It's her heart testing a future without having to say the word future. Now listen carefully, because this is where men often make a painful mistake. They feel her pulling closer, and they panic. They start squeezing the moment like they're afraid it will disappear. They demand clarity too early. They overtext. They push for reassurance. They try to lock it down before it has the chance to breathe. But you need to understand. When her interest is growing, it needs safety and space, not pressure. A woman can be deeply drawn to you and still be careful because carelessness has hurt her before. She might be thinking about you constantly and still act calm because she doesn't want to look foolish. She might be building a connection to your world and still need time to trust that you won't punish her for having feelings. If you respond with desperation, she feels burdened. If you respond with games, she feels unsafe. But if you respond with calm leadership, with warmth and clarity, you give her the one thing that makes her want to come closer without fear. So what does calm leadership look like when she's already finding reasons to stay connected to your world? It looks like you match her energy without chasing. You appreciate her reaching out without acting like you've been starving for it. You respond like a man who is pleased, not shocked. You keep your tone warm, your words steady, your intentions clear. And when the time is right, you turn the invisible thread into something real. I like talking to you, let's meet, or I enjoy you. Let's do something this week. Simple. Honest, no pressure. Because you need to understand, if she's truly thinking about you, she will move toward what is real when you give her a respectful invitation. And if she doesn't, you don't collapse. You don't beg. You don't chase shadows. You keep your dignity intact because the goal was never to decode her forever. The goal was to recognize the truth and respond with the kind of strength that makes real connection possible. You need to understand this. The clearest signs of her desire are not always the sweet compliments, the flirty words, or the little emojis that make your heart race for a moment. Words can be easy. Words can be said when someone is bored, lonely, or simply enjoying attention. But when a woman is genuinely thinking about you, when she is secretly fantasizing about you in a way that has weight and meaning, it shows up in what she chooses. It shows up in how she invests. It shows up in the quiet effort she makes, even when nobody is watching, even when she could have taken the easier path of doing nothing. Because you need to understand, real interest always leaves footprints. It leaves footprints in time, in attention, in the way she prioritizes you among 100 distractions. It leaves footprints in the way she responds when she doesn't have to, in the way she returns after a busy day, in the way she makes you feel included rather than tolerated. A woman who is not interested will keep you at the edge of her life. She will respond when it suits her, she will disappear when it doesn't, and she will always leave you doing the emotional work. But a woman who truly feels something, even if she hides it, will still move toward you in small, consistent ways that become impossible to ignore. You'll see it when she protects the connection. Maybe you have a misunderstanding. Maybe you send a message that could be taken the wrong way. Maybe there's a moment where the conversation could easily die. And instead of letting it die, she repairs it. She clarifies. She asks what you meant. She doesn't jump to the worst conclusion. That is not nothing. That is emotional maturity, and it's also investment. Because people don't repair what they don't value. You need to understand, the woman who can't stop thinking about you doesn't treat your connection like disposable entertainment. She treats it like something that matters enough to keep. You'll also see it in how she gives you access. Not access in the sense of control, but access in the sense of closeness. She lets you see her personality when she's not performing. She shares little things that make her feel real, a fear she doesn't usually admit, a dream she's embarrassed to say out loud, a memory that still hurts, a soft part of her she usually hides behind confidence. And she doesn't always do it dramatically. Sometimes it's a quiet sentence in the middle of a normal conversation, something like, I don't usually tell people this, or I'm actually nervous about that. And when you hear it, you can feel the room inside her heart opening just a little. You need to understand, vulnerability is not a random gift. It's a choice, and it's one of the most honest forms of effort. And then there is the kind of effort that shows up in her actions, the practical kind that doesn't look romantic on the surface, but is deeply romantic underneath. She follows through. She shows up when she says she will. She doesn't keep you waiting as a habit. She doesn't leave you in confusion as a lifestyle. If she can't make it, she explains, and she offers another time. She respects your time the way she wants her time to be respected. That's not just manners, that's interest. Because you need to understand, if a woman sees you as important, she will act like you are important, even when she's busy, even when she's tired, even when her life is full. Sometimes the most powerful sign is the way she moves her world around you. Not in a desperate way, but in an intentional way. She starts considering you when she makes decisions. She starts thinking, would he enjoy this? Or, I want to tell him this? Or, I wonder what he would say. And that's why she chooses you in moments where she could have chosen anyone else. When something good happens, she wants to share it with you. When something bad happens, she seeks your presence, even if only through a message. That is emotional selection. That is her heart quietly saying, "You are one of my people." You need to understand, being someone's person is not about being perfect. It's about being chosen again and again. Now, let me be honest with you in a way that's going to protect you. Because the opposite of effort is not hate, the opposite of effort is indifference. And indifference is the coldest truth you will ever feel. If you are the one always initiating, always carrying, always fixing, always guessing, always trying to earn a response, then you need to understand you are not reading hidden signs, you are reading your own hope. And hope is beautiful, but it can also become a prison if you keep feeding it with someone who gives you nothing back. That's why the point of understanding female psychology is not to become obsessed with decoding. It's to become skilled at recognizing reality. It's to stop falling in love with potential and start noticing behavior. Because real desire doesn't keep you in permanent uncertainty. It may start subtly, it may grow slowly, but it becomes clearer through choices, through effort, through consistency, through the way she treats your connection like it has value, not like it's something she can pick up and drop whenever she feels like it. And here is where your strength matters. If she's showing effort, your job is to meet it with calm leadership. You don't punish her by acting distant. You don't overwhelm her by acting desperate. You respond like a man who knows how to hold a connection gently, without squeezing it to death. You invite her into something real. You create a moment that allows her to choose you clearly. Because you need to understand the greatest gift you can give a woman who is quietly falling is safety, to be honest. A simple invitation, a real plan, a respectful tone, a steady presence. And the most heart-touching truth of all is this: you don't want a woman who only speaks sweetly. You want a woman who chooses you. You don't want words that fade. You want effort that remains. You don't want attention that appears when she's bored. You want devotion that shows up when life is heavy. So if you see her effort, cherish it and match it. If you don't see it, don't beg for it. Because you need to understand, you were not born to spend your life trying to convince someone to see your worth. You were born to stand in your worth and let the right person meet you there. You need to understand that the goal was never to turn her feelings into a mystery you solve. It was never to sit with your phone in your hand, replaying her messages, counting the hours between replies, and trying to find certainty in a place where certainty was never promised. The real goal is something stronger, something calmer, something that protects your heart while still keeping it open. The goal is to lead with respect and clarity, so the truth shows itself without you losing your dignity along the way. Because the hardest thing for many people isn't loving someone. It's holding their own self-respect while they love. And this is where a man either grows or he breaks himself trying. A lot of men think clarity means pressure. They think being direct means demanding answers, pushing for labels, cornering a woman with questions she isn't ready to answer. But you need to understand, clarity is not force. Clarity is light. Clarity is the quiet courage to say what you want without needing to control the outcome. It's the strength to express interest without begging for it. It's the ability to say, I like you, I enjoy you, I want to see you, and then let her actions respond. That is what real confidence looks like. Not loud energy, not arrogance, not manipulation, but calm and truthful direction. Because here's what happens when you don't lead with clarity. You start drifting into a relationship with your imagination. You start building stories from breadcrumbs. You start giving meaning to half effort, to late night texts, to vague compliments, to moments that feel warm but don't become real. And slowly, without realizing it, you become emotionally attached to someone who has never fully chosen you. That's a pain that doesn't arrive in one dramatic moment. It arrives quietly. It arrives through waiting, through overthinking, through the emotional exhaustion of always wondering where you stand. You need to understand that kind of confusion doesn't just waste time. It can slowly teach you to doubt your worth. When you lead with respect and clarity, you protect both people. You give her a safe space to be honest, and you give yourself the freedom to stop guessing. Respect means you don't play games, you don't punish her for being unsure, you don't use jealousy or silence to manipulate her emotions. Respect means you allow her to be human. But clarity means you don't disappear into the role of the safe option, the man who stays available with no direction, hoping she'll eventually realize what she has. You need to understand, a woman can feel drawn to you and still remain undecided if you never create a real moment that asks her to step forward. That's why calm leadership is so important. Calm leadership is not dominance, it's direction. It's when you take all that emotional noise, all that insecurity, all that temptation to chase, and you choose a simple, grounded move instead. You invite her into something real. You make a plan. You step toward reality rather than fantasy. You say, let's meet this week, or I want to take you out. And you say it with warmth, not with pressure. And then you watch, not to judge her, but to learn the truth. Because you need to understand, her response will tell you more than 100 mixed signals ever could. If she's interested, she moves toward it. She might not move perfectly, but she moves. She suggests another time if she can't. She makes space. She keeps the connection alive. She shows effort. She responds with clarity of her own, even if it's gentle. But if she's not interested, she stays vague. She stays floating. She stays in a pattern where you are always reaching, always initiating, always carrying. And that is the moment where your self-respect becomes your greatest love story. Because you will finally understand that you are not here to audition for affection. You need to understand the right woman does not require you to shrink yourself to keep her attention. Now, this is where it gets emotional, because many of you listening have been in that place where you felt her pull you close and then push you away. You felt her warmth and then her distance. You felt the hope rise and then drop. And you kept telling yourself, maybe if I do more, maybe if I say it better, maybe if I prove myself, she'll finally choose me. But you need to understand, love that requires you to abandon your dignity is not love that will heal you. It will only train you to accept less than you deserve. Clarity, real clarity, is you choosing to be brave enough to risk a clean answer. It's you choosing to value your peace more than your obsession. It's you saying, I'm not going to live in confusion, not as a threat, not as an ultimatum, but as a standard for your own heart. Because your heart is not a toy. Your time is not cheap. And you need to understand, you can be kind and still be firm. You can be warm and still have boundaries. You can be romantic and still be self-respecting. So the next time you feel yourself slipping into guessing mode, the next time you feel yourself reading into every small sign, pause. Take your power back. Lead with a simple truth. Say what you want calmly. Invite what is real. And then accept what she shows you without punishing her and without punishing yourself. Because the most attractive thing you can ever be is not the man who tries the hardest. It's the man who stands the strongest. And you need to understand, when you lead with respect and clarity, you don't just get answers, you get freedom. And freedom is where real love finally has room to begin.